GT that's there in third place. Rob Hollyman's Porsche fourth. It's an MGB Roadster. Is it? No, it's an MGB GT that's there. Bernard Foley in fifth place. And who completes the top six at the moment? It's going to be Adam Chodosh at the wheel of the gold Chevy.
It is indeed. Simeon Chodosh is scrapping away with one of the Mustangs that we've got out there. That's Keith Wyman, who has had a good start to his race. He started down in 13th place. He was up 4 places on the opening lap, up into 9th. It gets very busy on the run down towards turn 1 as everybody fans out, trying all these different lines. You've got sort of the outside line, which Simeon Chodosh tries. Keith Wyman tries that middle line. It's everybody else thereafter. Chris Richardson's had a good start to his race as well. You'd have thought that the Chevrolet Monte Carlo NASCAR would struggle.
Yeah, well, he didn't set a time in qualifying was the problem. I didn't think I'd seen that car appear, so that was why he was at the tail end of the order. And the other car that we were expecting to be at the tail end of the grid did not qualify and hasn't made it out, which is number 69, Tim Davis. He was entered for both Bernie V8s and for TVRs, and I think he's probably just focused on the TVRs, so we'll see him out at the wheel of his number 69 TVR in the second race of the weekend. So that pack of cars that you're talking about just heading up towards McLean's corner now. 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th places all together. The race leader, Peter Samuels, was leading by around about 1 1/4 seconds last time when he came over the start-finish line. And here's Chris Richardson at the wheel of the Ascar, about to gain a further place, and that's at the inside of long-time Jaguar racer Patrick Doyle, who just fends him off at the wheel of the fixed-head Coupe E-Type.
He does indeed, and Patrick Doyle, he was trying to make up a few positions on Keith Wyman and that of Simeon Chodosh on the opening part of this lap, but in turn he's now having to defend, as you say, from Chris Richardson. He now looks to pick up those places once again, as screaming by Simeon Chodosh is Keith Wyman in the Mustang. Clearly got the legs in a straight line, but on the brakes, once again Simeon Chodosh closes him down. The main focus for Simeon Chodosh is trying to figure out what he's going to do about that of Patrick Doyle. Patrick Doyle, who screams by in a straight line on the brakes in towards the Melbourne hairpin. That Jaguar E-Type is very, very strong on the brakes indeed, and closes in on Keith Wyman. Back over the line we've had our leaders, but just couldn't quite find the gear. It's like he popped it in neutral, finally found first, put his foot to the floor and got all out of shape, Mark.
Yeah, and because Simeon Chodosh had to anchor up because the E-Type didn't go anywhere, he's lost another place. Chris Richardson has now been able to sneak through and by the number 666 Corvette Stingray. And now Simeon Chodosh finds himself under pressure from Jason Andrews. We've got an off, and I'm afraid, into the tyre barrier. And that is Guy Samuels at the wheel of his MG, has gone off coming out of Goddard's. And of course, wet grass and an MGB, lots of weight to try and slow down. Not much runoff there. He's gone straight into the rector cell.
Yeah, it just makes you think, was that eagerness on the throttle, and it spat him straight into the rector cell barrier, as you say. Simeon Chodosh losing another position, this time to Jason Andrews, who was quicker in a straight line, but Simeon immediately tries to attack once again. Guy Samuels out of the car under his own power over the arm cap barrier. Great to see that he is all okay. I'd imagine it wasn't at massively high speed, but still slightly jarring. The marshal's just telling him exactly where to go. And as far as Peter Samuels is concerned, he will be hoping that we don't get a safety car, because that lead is just extending yet further. 1.6 seconds, but a big, big spin now for Patrick Doyle. He was fighting away with that of Chris Richardson and Keith Wyman, and he appeared into shot, and I think completed a full 360.
Patrick Doyle managing to get the car pointed back round in the right direction rather quickly.
And kept it running.
And kept the car running. I think it did stall briefly, but he soon fired it up again, and he managed to get back going again before Jason Andrews fully caught up. So our race leader already sprinting his way over the start-finish line. The relative gap between himself and Phil Walker is 4.5 seconds. Chris Richardson still trying to make further progress at the wheel of the 01 Chevy, and was trying to squeeze his way through and past Keith Wyman's Ford Mustang Fastback, but Keith was having absolutely none of that. So they'll be fighting away over what I think is 7th and 8th places at the moment. But either way, for Chris Richardson, this has been a remarkable drive through the field in a car which was really just designed to turn left more than anything, yes, wasn't it? Built for the ovals.
It was indeed, but with a big flick of oversteer, he would have had to turn left to collect that moment up. And it screams by in a straight line, and that's just before the yellow flag zone. So he's got a bit of safety by the time he dives on the brakes in towards Goddard's. And Patrick Doyle has closed in once again, following that 360 on the run through Schwantz Curve. Chris Richardson, having got by Keith Wyman, has started to run away, and that has allowed Patrick Doyle to close in. And can he be brave enough on the brakes the Jaguar E-Type to the extreme inside, the unpolished section of the circuit, just to try and get some sort of purchase on the tarmac. And unfortunately, Peter Samuels from the lead. Whereabouts is that? Is that on the exit?
Exit of McLean's.
Exit of McLean's on the run towards Coppice. Yes, it is. And that car, it just seems to have stopped.
It does, yeah. Stopped right on the very edge of the circuit. So there's localised yellow flags up there, and it's on the exit of the corner, so that's exactly on the racing line in reality. So he needs to get that car fired up as soon as possible. It's now Phil Walker, therefore, that has taken up the lead of the race, but only just. He's got Steve Wells right behind him. So for the lead of the race, the MGB Roadster leading the way, but with that car that's stricken in the hands of Peter Samuels, I think the safety car is on standby at the exit of the pit lane and will venture out onto circuit. So the SC board's being displayed, and that's why the leading pair now have slowed their pace as they come up towards Goddard's corner.
Yeah, Steve Wells, I think, focused on the exit, then spotted the board, but by that point he'd already passed that of Phil Walker, but immediately said, no, that's my mistake, you go back through. So fair play to Steve Wells. So the safety car is working its way through the exit of Redgate, has picked up the Ford Maverick of Gabriel Yilmaz. So that car will, you should imagine, get waved through and then pick up Phil Walker. Look at the water just streaming off the back of the new race leader, Phil Walker. Safety car has allowed Gabriel Yilmaz through and will pick up Phil Walker, Steve Wells and Bernard Foley, who is sat there in third place. A rather quiet race up until this point for Robert Hollyman. It was busy over the first couple of laps, but then it just started to die away. Over the start-finish line now is Adam Chodosh, and he's fending off any further attacks from anybody else around him. What this does is throws a spanner in the works for a number of drivers, because they'll be more than happy with the gap that they had. All of a sudden, those gaps disappear.
Yes, Chris Richardson might be happy, because of course he's carved his way from 17th on the grid up to 7th as the 0-1 car in his hands goes over the start-finish line now, and that will give him the opportunity to gain some more places. In fact, he's actually up to 6th, isn't he, because of that retirement for Peter Samuels. So up to 6th from 17th on the grid. That's not bad, is it? And we'll see whether, once they're all bunched up, he can make some further progress, because it would be Adam Chodosh would be the next of the cars up the road he wants to catch up with. The stricken Peter Samuels car still where it came to rest on the outside of McLean's corner. So it just seemed to falter, and that was it. So whether it was some water had got into the electrics of the car or whether it's a mechanical issue, but there's no obvious signs of any steam or any smoke from the car. It's just sort of ground to a halt.
Yes, it has indeed, and there's no promise of conditions getting better over the next couple of races. Thankfully, we break for lunch after this race, so that should allow opportunity for at least drivers to be slightly more comfortable, but it means there's no action on circuit in terms of enough to displace any water. So for the V8s, they'll be sort of hoping that the track sort of remains where it is. Just looking as the safety car queue works its way in towards the Melbourne Loop, we've still got the 59 of Guy Samuel's car in the Recticel barrier. I don't know whether anyone's managed to get there. The telehandler has got to the attention of Peter Samuels, but for Guy Samuels, he is still sat there and I think wondering where his recovery unit is.
Yeah, it's not been a good race, has it, for the Samuels family?
No.
So, yeah, Peter out, Guy out, and those are the only two retirements out on track, other than Jake Hindley has disappeared somewhere. Not Jake Hindley, I should say. Callum Ray has disappeared somewhere out on track. Do we know the whereabouts of his car, or did it just not appear?
I think with it saying laps 0, I don't know whether he started the sort of formation lap and then just disappeared into the pit lane, deciding that it wasn't maybe something he was comfortable with. So comfortably out the way is Peter Samuels. He's being brought right up against the Recticel barrier, but with the grass being so wet, it doesn't necessarily mean completely out of reach. Chris Richardson over the line. Only now do we have the top 6 effectively in view of the safety car, because whilst you're behind the safety car, naturally you reduce your speed, but you can't exactly push to close up to the safety car because of the conditions.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, been there myself, and almost having a spin whilst you're trying to catch the safety car train in greasy conditions. Yes, that would have been embarrassing. Yeah. So just to run you through the order, number 83, Phil Walker, leads the way. In second place is number 88, Steve Wells. Third place is number 21, Bernard Foley. And fourth place is number 9, which is the Porsche of Rob Hollyman. Fifth place is 999, that's Adam Chodosh. And sixth place, that's the last of the cars that's actually managed to catch the safety car at this stage, is car number 01, which is Chris Richardson. Seventh place is number 17, Keith Wyman. Eighth place is 461, despite the spin for the Jaguar E-Type, which is going to be Patrick Doyle. Ninth place is number 51, and that is Jason Anderson. Completing the top 10 is 666, which is Simeon Chodosh. So that's the order of the top 6. We've got 7.5 minutes on the clock still to go. Now that they've got Peter Samuel's car out of harm's way, we might see the safety car lights extinguished, because there's no obvious signs of Guy Samuel's car being moved from where it came to rest in the barriers at the moment.
He'll be thinking there's some sort of favouritism going on, won't he? But to be fair, it's in a position where it's barely on the exit of the corner. It's almost as if he'd gone through the Roberts sort of chicane and ended up there instead of on the exit of Goddard. So the safety car leading the field around. 7 minutes still to go. By the time it gets back to us, it will be about a 5.5 minute lap. And there was no sort of preemptive sort of warning or anything like that from Peter Samuel's car, because the last lap he completed was the fastest lap of the race, the 1:57.458. So it just stopped. There was no sort of, like I say, no warning lights or anything that seemed to indicate there was a problem. But as you say, it could just be some water ingress that got to the electrics. Yeah, and it faltered on an uphill section as well. So it wasn't as though he could get the car moving down a downhill section and roll it safely out of harm's way where it came to rest. That there was nothing else he could do about it. So 6.5 minutes just under of the race to go. The lights still remain on the safety car at the moment. Usually it would be around about now, or just as they head onto the Melbourne Loop, where the safety car lights would get extinguished. So we're just coming up to the point where the safety car will be turning in towards the Fogarty S's, and the lights still remain on with 6 minutes remaining. So it's MGB's first, second and third at the moment, a Porsche fourth, a Chevy Corvette fifth. We've got the NASCAR sitting there, which is another Chevy, bodied car at least, but it's a space frame chassis, in sixth place. It'll be a Ford in seventh, the Mustang, the Jaguar E-Type in eighth. And then, what's it going to be, another Ford, is it? And then another Chevy. I think complete the top 10 as things stand. The SD1 Rover running around in 13th place currently, which is Jake Hindley. Lights are still on the safety car, even though it gets... there we go. They illuminate, they extinguish themselves now, just as I say it. So we will be going back racing once more. And it's now up to Phil Walker as to when he wants to get his foot down and get the race back underway, Jack. Yeah, you say foot down. I think foot nearly down, because you've got to be so careful. Especially in these conditions. So just backing the field up, Adam Chodosh really applying the pressure onto Rob Hollyman, and now I think Phil Walker has decided to go. So the safety car just nicks its way into the pit lane, and for Phil Walker, he's going to hope for a good exit. He gets that good exit and now runs away from Steve Wells, followed then by Bernard Foley and Robert Hollyman, who's got Adam Chodosh with him. Chris Richardson from the very back row, as you say, has had a brilliant run through the order. Keith Wyman is there or thereabouts and will now try and run away from Patrick Doyle. With 4.5 minutes to go on the brakes in towards turn 1 again, the battle's resumed. And just having a quick look at Matt Snowball in the Plymouth Barracuda. He was looking to try and sneak a place and go through. So they all slither their way round through Redgate Corner. The leading pair have certainly broken away again already, haven't they, and re-resumed their battle. Phil Walker and Steve Wells, who are getting close to each other just as the safety car came out. As for Matt Snowball and the Plymouth, you could see him thundering his way down through the Craner curves. That must be a real handful, that car. It looks fantastic, doesn't it? It looks about twice the width of something like an MGB, which is what leads the race in the hands of Phil Walker as he slides his way through McLean's Corner, still with Steve Wells behind him. Bernard Foley sitting there in third place. Rob Hollyman in fourth place. Adam Chodosh still under pressure from Chris Richardson in the 01 ASCAR Chevy, who is still trying to improve upon what is sixth place, despite the fact he's come from 17th on the grid. Yeah, and now Steve Wells gets a brilliant run in a straight line as they go along the exhibition straight, splashing their way into the braking zone. It will be the outside line for Phil Walker. Can he hold on to the lead? No, Steve Wells gets to the apex first. He's now got to look for the good exit, but a spin for Peter Samuels on the exit of the Fogarty S's, so that allows Bernard Foley through. So from the lead, right the way down into third place, just being outbraked, and then all of a sudden, with eagerness to get on the throttle, looking for that good exit, down through the gearbox he will go in towards the Melbourne Loop, but now in third place. So it's Steve Wells that leads, who started in 7th place with a couple of retirements and some very rapid progress. He's at the front. Now it's Bernard Foley who will have to look to defend from Phil Walker for the next 2 minutes and 50 seconds. We've got 2 laps of this race still to go, so onto the penultimate lap will go Steve Wells, and this will be exactly what he was hoping for. That safety car brought him close enough, and he just forced the mistake.
Absolutely, and bearing in mind he's come from 7th on the grid to pick up the lead of the race. Bernard Foley will be working overtime to try and keep erstwhile race leader Phil Walker behind as they splash their way out of Redgate Corner and onto the top of Hollywood before descending down through the Craner Curves on what is lap number 8 for the race leading pack. So down through the Craner Curves, Bernard Foley looking to see if he can hang on to 2nd place. He qualified 2nd, so he certainly had the pace in qualifying. But I would say now, when he's going to make a mistake, he's going to skitter off into the gravel trap. Is he down at the old hairpin? He just about manages to keep it out the gravel trap, but that's the mistake from him now, and that also now allows Phil Walker to retake 2nd place. But just going to show how difficult it is, because it is absolutely bucketing it down with rain now.
Yeah, it really, really is, and that's just going to make it harder. You can see fighting away with the controls Phil Walker as he goes through McLean's and then up towards Coppice Corner, which you'd imagine is very tricky because the car goes light, and whilst these are quite heavy cars, with the amount of power when they go light, you then risk aquaplaning, and it's quite a lot of car to try and slow down. Is that Chris Richardson that's ran slightly wide? Rob Hollyman that's run slightly wider. Has he got a problem? No, the car somewhat gets back up to speed. But Rob Hollyman, whatever happened there, it washed him wide, and through went Adam Chodosh, who's now in front of Chris Richardson over the past couple of laps. And Robert Hollyman, what exactly happened? Maybe just a locked brake?
I think it's probably just a locked brake or just hit some standing water, because it is as bad as it's been all day now. For the lead of the race, in towards the Melbourne hairpin they will go. Rob Hollyman trying to nip back up the inside of Chris Richardson as they head in towards the braking area for the Fogarty S's. The Porsche gains 1 more place, but the race leaders will be heading on to what will be their final lap of the race before too much longer. Up towards Goddard's there will go. Rob Hollyman, you can see him wiping the windscreen in the Porsche, so visibility, it's not just the conditions out there and the standing water and the spray, it's also the fact that you now can't see out of the windscreen. As over the start-finish line, pretty much together for the lead of the race, it's still Steve Wells that leads the way, but Phil Walker is asking the questions in 2nd.
Yeah, he is now, so it's now his turn to try and force the mistake out of Steve Wells. Both take similar lines through Redgate, and with 30 seconds remaining, the clock will well and truly tick to 0 on this lap. Steve Wells will lead us down through the Craner Curves. Adam Chodosh is now trying to defend from Robert Hollyman. He's got the legs in the straight line, but Robert Hollyman will be very, very quick, or very, very late on the brakes indeed. Looks to the outside, but Steve Wells splashing his way through the old hairpin. It's so wet. Another spin now for Phil Walker. Spins through 180 degrees and he's in the middle of the road, avoided by Bernard Foley. And the rain is really starting to come down now, and that has just caught out. That's a Phil Walker. I don't even think he was on throttle, but now we've got a spin for Steve Wells from the lead. Spins through 180 degrees. Can he get it back pointing the right way? No, the car goes into the gravel. Can he get it struck back into life? I don't think he can. That was aquaplaning. So back to the lead, or to the lead for the first time, with only half a lap in this race to go. Bernard Foley takes the lead. He's put not a single foot wrong in this race, and that has put him to the lead. But the rain is really starting to come down. There's now a car running wide at the bottom of the old hairpin. That's Keith Wyman rumbling his way through the gravel, manages to find his way back onto the tarmac. But the rain coming down as heavy as it is, it's just catching those drivers out. On the brakes in towards the Fogarty S's for the final time is Bernard Foley. The pressure's off. He just needs to try and paddle that car home. And with the amount of water coming down, it's going to be a real challenge. So delayed on the throttle, wiping the windscreen to get some sort of visibility. Back going again is Phil Walker after the spin at the bottom of the old hairpin. But unfortunately, Steve Wells has got back going. Steve Wells has dug that car out the gravel and still will pick up 3rd place. But out of the old hairpin out of the old hairpin, out of the Melbourne hairpin for the final time will come Bernard Foley on the brakes in towards Goddard's, and without putting a foot wrong and allowing those around him to make the mistakes and being in the right position at the right time, it will be Bernard Foley that will pick up the win. Well deserved. Bernard Foley through the final corner to take the win in the first of 3 races in the Bernie's V8s. Over the line to finish in 3rd place, it will be Phil Walker. And to finish in what is 3rd place now, Steve Wells. It was looking so good until that final lap, just a small mistake, and somehow managed to dig himself out the gravel. He will cross the line to finish in 3rd and round out your podium. Will it be Adam Chodosh or will it be Robert Hollyman that appears first? It's Robert Hollyman that picks up 4th place in this race. Adam Chodosh hunted down to the line by Chris Richardson. Bernie Chodosh in the grandstand waving at Adam as he crossed the line. Chris Richardson over the line to finish in 6th place. It will then be Keith Wyman, or will it? Because he ran through the gravel on that final lap of the race. It will be Patrick Doyle that comes through the final corner and will finish in 7th place. It will then be Simeon Chodosh to come through to finish in what is 8th place. So Simeon Chodosh through to finish in 8th place. We've also got a couple of cars that are coming through to finish a lap down. We had the number 23 machine of Callum Ray to finish in 9th place. 10th place is going to be Matt Snowball. In 11th place, car number 51, that being Jason Andrews. Where has Keith Wyman got to? Has he now gone through? No, I don't think he has. We saw him run wide down at the old hairpin, but he's now not re-emerged. So it makes you think that that car isn't quite where it deserves to be. But the checkered flag has brought everybody in the race round, barring just a couple. We've still got Gabriel Yilmaz picking his way through the final corner. And then that will bring an end to the first of 3 Bernie's V8 races that we have here this weekend. So that was the only race that we're going to see for the Bernie's V8s solo. The next Bernie's V8s race won't have the Bernie's V8s. It will have the TVR shootout aspect. So all TVRs top to bottom of the order. And then the 3rd and final race, which will take place tomorrow at around about 20 past 11. That is when we see the Bernie's V8s and the TVR shootout, the biggest grid we will have here this weekend, take over the Donington Park GP circuit. But what a brilliant advert that was for the Bernie's V8s in the wet. So some confirmed results up on screen for you now. Bernard Foley taking that win ahead of Phil Walker and Steve Wells. Rounds out your podium. The fastest lap of the race was by the previous race leader, Peter Samuels, with a 1 minute 57.458, who posted that the lap he retired, or the lap prior to his retirement. Cars working their way into the pit lane, splashing their way in. Hopefully this race can subside before we go back racing later on this afternoon. But that was race number 2 of the weekend, the first race for the Bernie's V8s. We are about to break for lunch. The next time we will be back live, it will be for the MSVT Track Day Championship. And I think we've got some views from Parc Fermé. Nobody is quite there as of yet, but you should imagine that they are trying to duck for some cover away from all of this rain and those poor cameramen and poor Mark. We will include poor Mark, who's down there in the pit lane getting rather soggy indeed.
Because they've gone the wrong way. We need to chat to Bernard, don't we? So if I stand here, then we get Bernard to come and join us here. There we go. So Bernard can come and join us. This way, Bernard. Just in here somewhere. There we go. Yep. He's going to have to go into reverse now. This isn't quite working, is it?
Now look what
Best laid plans and all that. So Bernard's going to come and join us. Phil's going to come and join us. And we'll get Steve to come and join us as well. There we go. We need to have a word with them because we're on the live stream and it'd be wrong. We're not having official podiums for them. Pull in, Steve. Oh no, there we go. There we go. We've got them all. Right, okay. We've managed to sort it. We've self-served here and managed to get it all done. So Bernard Foley jumps out of the number 21 car, having qualified second quickest. And, right, the kitchen towel, which has been wiping the windscreen, has just come out of Bernard Foley's car. Bernard, it's fair to say those conditions looked rather tricky.
They were pretty atrocious, particularly towards the end, with a lot of aquaplaning going on. I think I was set up far too stiffly for the conditions, and found I couldn't keep the pace of the front runners, but eventually they slid off, and I managed to hold it together for the last few laps.
Well, it didn't look as though from our perspective you made a single mistake, but I bet there were a few out there because it was just so difficult.
I went off in the old hairpin, but I managed to avoid the gravel trap.
Nice to see Bernie's V8s again, you know, so popular. You had your own race today. You'll get to mix it up with all the TVRs tomorrow. That's going to be a busy one.
It will be a very busy race tomorrow. Hopefully it might be a little bit drier.
Well done, well done.
Okay, thank you very much indeed.
Let's grab a quick word with Phil Walker, who stood behind us if we can. So cameraman could just spin round this way. We'll grab a quick word with Phil. Phil, a couple of spins out there in tricky conditions.
Yeah, I was so excited. If I had won the race, it would have been my first win for 23 years outright. So it meant a lot, and I tried too hard. But, you know, better to try than not to try, I guess. But yeah, it was brilliant fun. But God, it was treacherous out there. I've never driven in anything like that before.
Bernard was saying, you know, just aquaplaning everywhere because it just got worse and worse and worse as the race wore on.
Oh yeah, on the slowing down lap, I almost lost it at the old hairpin. There was just like a sheet of water going across there. So, oh yeah, sorry, yeah, he found it. Yeah, but brilliant fun though, brilliant fun, loved it.
Weather forecast for tomorrow doesn't look much better.
Well, that's why the MGs do well though, because I haven't got the horsepower. Whereas the big Yanks, if it's dry, they'll disappear. So wet's fine, but maybe not quite this wet.
We'll see. We'll see if we can sort it for tomorrow. And let's grab a quick word, if we can, the driver that finished in third place, Steve Wells. Steve, as we've seen from everybody, you know, so tricky out there. You had to dig yourself out the gravel on the final lap.
I know, and I was in first place, and I spun it once, held on to it, carried on and still in first, and done it exactly the same place again. Donut, absolute donut. Anyway, it was a lot of fun, if not a bit scary. I couldn't see anything behind Joe. Absolutely ridiculous trying to get past him. It was just nothing. I'm thinking, well, he must be on track because he's going that way. But it was a lot of fun, if not a bit nerve-wracking at times.
Spray can't see anything. Also, I'd imagine the car sort of steaming up inside wouldn't have helped.
Yeah, we do have a luxury of an electric screen, but I didn't have the luxury of all the water coming through the air vent at the top and dripping down. So it's like a spa. It's like a foot spa in there. From head to foot.
You've had a spa day. Couldn't recommend it, but you've had a spa day.
No, definitely not. It was a good spa weekend. Yeah, I'll tell the wife that. Lovely spa.
Well done, well done. So that's it from the Bernie's V8s. We'll see them back out later on when the TVRs will have their own grids, and we'll look forward to joining you for that race later on. So from Jack Worrell, myself, until later on, we'll say goodbye.